G'day everyone, this is Trav Carruthers, the captain, and myself, James McCracken, the coach, and we are back in episode number 5 on Captain and the Coach. So Trav, do you want to take everyone through what we're going to be discussing today?
Yeah, so today's topic is too busy to grow. So we've spoken about in previous podcasts around that negativity, the negative connotation around the word busy, and we
Yes.
hear it all the time, right?
Yep.
So busy, and I'd love to build out my systems and processes, but I'm too busy. So it's one of those things, right? And I challenge people, you sometimes need to go slower to go
Yep.
faster. So
Yep.
maybe you might need to tone things back. So one of the brokers, I hear brokers say this a lot to their clients. I say it with my clients when we talk about purchasing property. The best time to buy was 10 years ago. Second best time is today. Terrible time to buy is in 5 years' time, right? So I think we need to take that lens back and take some of our own medicine here and look at it in our own business. Like the best time to be building our systems and processes was probably 5 or 10 years ago. Second best time is now. A terrible time is to start it next month, next year. It's because it's just kicking the can down the road and it's essentially making it harder because if your volume's increasing, it's gonna be harder to find the time. Yeah. So
So let me be devil's advocate here for one sec. And I'm the broker listening to this going, yeah, Trev, I understand that, but I am actually busy because I keep getting new inquiries coming in the door, and that means that I've got new files to write. So therefore, I'm making more money. So what's the problem with that? So what would your view be on that?
well, at some point you're gonna reach capacity, right?
Yep.
And if you're a good broker and you have a reasonably good rapport with your clients, without any other marketing or anything else, those warm referrals are going to continue to roll in and your volume's going to increase.
Yep.
So what's your only option? Work more hours. But Trav, I'm already working 60 hours a week and my phone keeps ringing. All right, well then go work 70. Oh, but then when I work 70, my phone keeps ringing. Well then work 80, then work 100. Like you can't just keep adding man hours to it. And if you start trying to plug in support staff in those systems and support, we've seen it happen time and time again, people trying to hire offshore without the systems in place to facilitate that. And then they get a very poor outcome. And it just makes things worse. And then they're back to the drawing board again and again and again.
So it's a bit of a chicken and an egg, some of this, because there'll be some people who go, well, that all makes sense, but could my staff potentially build the systems for me? Or the other thing that I think can sometimes be a constraint for people, I'd be curious for your view on this, is do I need to get to a certain volume so I can have the confidence in terms of consistency of cash flow so I can reinvest some of that back into getting some staffing that creates capacity or the opportunity for me to have the time to then create some of these systems and processes? So, what is it? Is it the chicken or the egg? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, very, yeah. You make a really good point. It's very, very difficult, right? Like it's, especially in the early days, you need cash flow. Like everyone knows how hard it is to succeed, and especially in the first couple of years when you become a broker as it is.
Yeah.
So when I'm sitting there saying to you, no, no, go spend 25 hours a week building out your systems and processes, when that time could be spent doing some BD and bringing and actually putting some food on the table, like I agree, it's extremely difficult. But you need to be thinking about this and you need to be a little bit strategic. So, like you said, you might get to a point where your trial book reaches a certain point, and you can go, okay, well now I need to spend the next 3 months focusing on my systems and processes. I'm by no means telling people to do this. This was hugely effective for me. I am almost embarrassed to say this, but this is what I did. I would go out and sometimes I would work 100 hours a week. There are times where I'd have a long weekend. So we would have a public holiday on a Monday. I would work like 40 to 50 hours from Saturday to Monday, not on clients. I would literally get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, plant myself in front of the computer and build out systems till 6 o'clock Saturday night. Get up on Sunday morning, do the same. Get up on Monday morning, do the same. And I've essentially shifted my systems and processes 3 to 6 months in one weekend.
So we're not encouraging people to do that. Let's be really clear. And I think that's frankly bad for health and well-being, let alone anything else. Though I can appreciate it accelerates the movement of the business. Let's talk about this in a slightly different perspective because we absolutely have people who will come to us where they're writing somewhere between really good to excellent numbers, and yet they are absolutely slaving it in terms of the quantity of hours, and for one of a few reasons. Part of it's, I think, as much to do with mindset. No, I can certainly think about people that are would fit this criteria where they already have staff, and certainly in some cases where they're delegating reasonably well to staff, and yet there's still some potential constraints or concerns or challenges that need to be addressed internally within themselves in order uh, to operate more effectively and so that they can, going back to the word busy, is so that they can be productive, focused, impactful, purposeful with how and where they allocate their time, as opposed to feeling like if time is there, that it will be spent on doing something for the sake of feeling like more time equals better results, which it doesn't always equate to that. And I often ask people a question, which is on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is being a ninja at time management, where would you rate yourself? And regularly, the number is not an 8, 9, or 10. It's somewhere well below that. And then the next question I'll ask is, okay, so if you're working, say, 60 hours a week, how many of those do you think are reasonably ineffective hours that aren't necessarily helping shift the needle or do something overly productive for you? And again, you'll get a number in there that suggests that they could probably be working a little to a lot less hours for the same, and in some cases, better results.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's hard. Like everyone, there's so many distractions, and when you're a broker, you've got emails, you've got phone calls, you got workshopping deals with BDMs, you've got your team reaching out to you for clarification on certain things. So it's
Yep.
really, really difficult to get that deep work and that focus done. I find I can get a lot of work done really early in the morning. So I will work 3 hours before my team even starts. That's when I get my heavy lifting done. I'm able to get everything done. I've been able to like if you see my screen set up, for example, I've got three massive screens set up and I've got my text messages and everything. So I don't pick up my phone all day. I make phone calls from my computer. I send text messages from my computer, everything I do, right? And that's just a little thing just to help me be more productive. I've got certain things that I don't want to see because it's distracting me from my high volume work. And those are the sorts of things that like when I talk to my team about it, they're like, yeah, Trav, these are just little things. Like it might save you 2 seconds. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing this 20 times a day.
Yeah.
And it just allows me. And when I get in that flow state, I know when I get in the flow state and I can move very quickly and I'm not distracted, I can get 3 hours worth of work done in an hour. And then there are times when I'm the opposite, where I'm distracted. I'm picking up my phone when I shouldn't. I'm just, I mean, and I'm getting an hour's worth of work done in 3 hours. So it's hard to sort of maintain focus. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, look, there's something out there. I think it's called Parkinson's law, which is that time will expand to, or the activity will expand to take up the available time. And so if you compress time, then you usually compress the activity. And if you have more time available, then sometimes that same task will take longer. You had one view on this around broad goals versus specific goals, and as one way to helpfully help people transition from being busy to potentially being more impactful or purposeful or effective. So, do you just want to take us through that?
Yeah, so this is an affirmation I've got written down on my phone. I'd love to claim it as mine. I don't know where I got it from, so it's not mine. I've stolen it. Is broad goals create anxiety, specific goals create drive. So let's tie this back into our space in the finance industry. So a broad goal would be I want to be $100 million a year broker. That's just a very broad goal. That's what I want to do, right?
Yep.
Very that same goal, but putting some specifics around it. Excuse me. B, I want to build systems and processes so that I can plug in support to facilitate $100 million per annum in settlements. When the business is ready, I will increase the lead flow to facilitate that $100 million a year without sacrificing the client experience and working more than, let's say, 40 hours a week. So it's still the same goal, but it's putting some specifics around it.
I
Going
like.
from 30 to 100, crazy. Going from 30 to 100 by ticking these boxes, it sort of seems a little bit more achievable.
Yeah, it provides more clarity and it's not as ambiguous and broad as you say. It's, I mean, go back to the word specific, and it's got a few criteria in there that help give it some guidance or governance or structure around how you can help facilitate that outcome.
I'll give you a good example. I was at a conference last year and I seen this very clear because I was just watching everyone how they're interacting, speaking to different brokers. There's a broker that I've sort of been speaking to and sort of helping a little bit, does about 5 mil a month. He's doing really, really well for himself. Always on the phone, always on the computer. Every time I see him, he's got his computer with him. He's, oh mate, I'll be back. I got to run off. I got to take this call. I got to do this. I got to do that. He's always just go, 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 go. And then there's another couple of brokers that I spend a bit of time with that are doing twice that volume. I don't even know if they've probably got their phone in their pocket. I never see it because they're not taking phone calls. They don't have their computer with them. But it's because they've been very clear and they've been very specific on what their goals are and they've grown themselves to a point. So the broker that's doing 5 mil a month, he says, I'm so busy, I don't know, but he wants to keep growing. But he's so hesitant to go and do what he needs to do what he needs to do to actually grow his business. So he's
So
sort of trapped to a certain extent.
is the hesitancy, do you think, in putting time into building systems and processes, or do you think that's in hesitancy to outlay a financial commitment for having more staff in his business or having a staff member in order to take some of those responsibilities off his plate, or is it in something else?
Well, he's had limited success bringing on support staff, and I've been very clear on this that I think the reason why he struggles is because he has no assistants. Especially your offshore staff, they're very task driven. They want to know that, and if unless you have the right workflows and the right systems in place, it's impossible. You don't give them the right tools to do the job. If you don't give them the right tools, they're not going to be able to do the job properly. And this is the problem that he's got. So, and then now he's in this conundrum where do I buy it or build it when we talk about systems and processes? Do I go out and pay a significant amount of money and have somebody build them for me? Or
Yep.
do I go ahead and build it myself? And yeah, his business has been quite successful. And it would be, if he was to buy it, it'd be pretty expensive. Like it's going to affect his EBIT. If he's to build it, the opportunity cost that he's going to lose, is essentially going to have to maintain his volume or even reduce his volume for a period of time while he builds out these processes so we can essentially go slower to go faster. So it's a really tough one.
I hear you. My gut feel would be that buying it, let's just say, I mean, you in years gone by used to offer, for example, a build out of broker engine. Then let's just use as an example. I would think that if he was to purchase a system, that he'd need to still tweak and customize to fit his delivery model, but to build, take something off the shelf that he could tweak and have it installed. um, yeah, it'll absolutely cost him, but I would think that would be money extremely well spent to get a result. And I certainly know that there's brokers out there that couldn't spend that money quick enough to help them get something working better in order to allow them to free up capacity or demand or time, etc. And interestingly, I think this is sometimes the challenge again when you're really busy on the day to day, the grind, if you like. Uh, where sometimes your team may need the development, but you don't necessarily have the time to put into their training. And again, there's that conundrum, if you like, when you're hiring offshore, is do you go someone that's, you know, quote unquote cheaper to hire, but therefore requires the training and the development, or do you potentially invest in someone that's got a bit more maturity, skills, knowledge, experience, that may cost you a bit more financially, but will arguably save you in the minimum dozens of hours, and as I would occasionally say to clients, potentially up to hundreds of hours of time in terms of the not having the need to train the fundamentals and essentially just learn your business model, your structures, your ways of operating, your values, etc. So essentially, we'll call it the ABC finance way of doing things in order to plug in and therefore do their role and do it really well, which would again be a greater financial cost, albeit it's not a great deal difference, but it will certainly save them a significant amount of time. Well,
Oh, and when you look at offshoring and we look at how cost effective it is, like if you look at my staff, for example, I have staff that are getting paid twice what I know other brokers are paying their offshore staff, like double. But because it's so cost effective, it's worthwhile.
yeah,
And that's one of the things that I'm very proud of with Vertus. We've been able to offshore very well off the back of systems and processes, and that I just hung my hat on that. Great systems and processes. We are people that are actively trying to join Vertus on the back of the systems and processes, right? But one of the
right.
things that I noticed when we went on that golf trip last year, Matty, who I was speaking to, when I was talking to him about his offshoring, he does it better than us. And I was like, don't get me wrong, his systems and processes, I wouldn't say at a level of ours, but I'm like, why is he doing it so much better than us? And I'm in constant conversation. Him and I having conversations every month since Thailand last year on how we. And probably the biggest takeaway that I got from him is he trains his team. Like his team come in, they were already very skilled. He
Yep.
pays a premium for them, but he doesn't go, oh, yep, I've got them out of the box. They're good to go. Like, let's just put them in the corner and just let them do their thing. He's constantly training them over the last couple of years. And now they are so proficient at what they do that he's able to write really healthy numbers at a really low cost base. And he's got a really good work-life balance. He's probably one of the guys that I think has got it. He's got it nailed. What like his model for what he wants to do, it's probably as close to perfect as you're ever going to get. And so that's one of the focuses with us now. We can't, ever since I've been having these discussions with him, my offshore team are getting training every single week, which is something we do not miss.
I,
Because something when I was busy, I'm like, oh, I'm too busy. I'd love to train them, but I'm too busy.
I
So yeah,
I think that's as good for business culture and staff retention as it is for their own ongoing satisfaction in the role. Well, I think they all go hand in hand. And I think the other key thing you said there is his business model is perfect, and for the keywords were for what he wants to do. So that again, according to his lifestyle, where he's at in terms of his commitments around being a father, a parent, what's the same thing, isn't it? A husband, et cetera, and have a
yeah,
work-life balance that accommodates him really well in all of those respects. There was one more thing that you wanted to discuss as far as too busy to grow is concerned. There's broad goals versus specific goals. There was one more discussion point.
um, what was it? Look, I guess on my conversations I'm having with a lot of brokers at the moment, there's a lot of disruption coming in our industry, and these one man bands. Everyone seems to see that with the way that tech's moving and the way the industry's moving, that a lot of these one man bands are going to get bought up. They're going to get bought up and slot in. They're probably going to sell. Bigger business is going to take equity in these smaller businesses, and they're going to slot into their systems and processes. They're going to write more volume. So essentially, a broker that's writing 25 mil a year that owns 100% of their little one man band is going to own 50% of their business, but they're going to write 60 mil a year. So profitability goes up. They've got the benefits of systems and support. So there's that model. There's the model that we're doing, which is essentially all the benefits of being self-employed without being self-employed, systems, processes, HR, support, recruiting, branding, all that done for you.
Yep.
But you eat what you kill. I'm giving you everything so you can go out and find more volume.
Yep.
And what you get paid is effective on how effective you are. You're not on a base wage. So there's that model, and then there's the model where everyone needs to go about building. I don't know. It's a really tough one. Yeah, it's a
That's right.
really
Yeah,
tough spot to be in.
that helps me understand. Sorry, it goes back to what you said earlier about buy it or build it as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's clearly pros and cons in both of those options. Uh, but I would say that uh, the more mature the business, my experience is that, well, frankly, they've already built a lot of systems and processes, but they're also big advocates of getting results done sooner, if and where it's possible.
I guess if you're going, I'll challenge you with this. Like, if you're going ahead and building it yourself, like, so this is a lens I'd put on that, and I have conversations with some of my brokers around this. If I was to come to you, James, and ask you to be 50% better in 12 months' time, I'll come back to you in 12 months. If you're a business owner, you're a broker, and I'll say, I want you to be 50% better in 12 months' time. You're like, that's a pretty big number, Trav. I don't think I can achieve that. Well, if I was to come to you and say, look, I'm going to call you, what's today, Friday? I'm going to call you next Friday. Do you reckon you can be 1% better by next Friday? Yeah, Trevor, I can achieve that. So it's not about going making these big holistic changes to your business if that's what sometimes I've had to, like I said, pretty embarrassed. I've gone heavy, but I don't do that for 6 months. I might do that for a very short period and then I back off. But then I get to a point where it's just these little one percenters. So if you're in your business, you don't need to go make these massive holistic changes every single week. Sometimes you need to go to a big build. The rest of the time, it's just making those little tweaks. There was a lot going on for me yesterday. I had meetings, there was things going on everywhere. It was a pretty manic day for me, to be completely honest. And I had a property manager that we work with, and we were doing certain things. And I'm like, hey, would an email template outlining this information be helpful for you? She's like, oh, that would be amazing. That would really, really help. I'm like, okay. So instead of putting that on the list to do 3 weeks from now, I took 5 minutes because I've done so many of them and just did it then and there. it was quite easy for me to turn around and say, I'm too busy, I'll get to it later, and it's something
Yeah.
that never gets done. I just stopped what I was doing, spent the 5 minutes, built it, sent it to her saying, "You're happy with this?" She goes, "Trav, it's perfect. It's done." So that's one of the things I challenge our listeners to do. You don't need to go ahead. Just that those little 1%. Just every week, just 1% better, 1% more. And then 18 months from now, you will look up and you will have a significantly more successful business.
So conceptually, I agree with that. I think the challenge sometimes is that in the world we live in, people want instant gratification, and so at the risk of saying something extremely unpopular, that people are welcome to chastise me for this if they want to. Uh, I notice that the businesses that are larger in size tend to have business owners who appreciate that it takes more time to get certain things done, and certain businesses uh, essentially not prepared to wait more than days or weeks in order to get results. Now, we're not talking about Facebook ads results here, which can be instantaneous, but I think there should be a healthy appreciation for recognizing that if it's taken you 5 or 10 or 15 years to get to a certain point, it's not going to happen over a period of days, weeks, or hours. That there's a level of effort that goes into creating transformative level of change. So
Alex Hormozy talks a lot about that, about increasing your time horizon. The longer your time horizon, the greater success you're going to have. And I, James, what you're saying, it resonates with me so much because I've been guilty of it too. I am actually quite an impatient person. So when I'm building these things and there's certain marketing strategies and certain things that I'm working on at the moment, and I have to constantly be telling myself, just keep going, because where I'm trying to get to, it's so hard to get there. But when I get there, there's very few people there because very few people were prepared to put the time, the effort, and the money into that particular strategy to get it to there. So I'm taking myself out of the masses and trying to put myself in the elite in these certain areas. And it's hard, right? Because I'm not getting that instant gratification. I'm forking out, I'm putting effort in, I'm having weekly meetings with my marketing team, and it's driving me insane. But I'm like, just stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. It's really difficult, but you're right. Like it's easy to fall in that habit of just going, no, screw it. It's not. I mean, there's no ROAS on this. I'm out. But I'm like, no, no. So I couldn't agree with you more. And that's one of the things that you need to like. Yeah, you need to hold yourself accountable. Have someone hold you accountable with these things. I
yeah,
think is
and also maybe trust in oneself that if you give it enough time, the chances are it will create the outcomes that you want. If you're consistent and persistent with investing in the right actions over a sustained period of time. So
the.
easy for us to say, of course, but in the cut and thrust of dealing with deals that are going south, or as you said earlier, phones that are ringing, emails that are pinging, then there's obviously other commitments or distractions, and that's where having that diligent, structured, focused approach, and as you said, Trav, aiming to be 1% better each day is arguably a more sustainable or effective way to go about creating change, rather than trying to approach it too quickly, where it might end up being built on a house of cards and not necessarily support the medium to longer term outcomes that someone would want to enjoy as well.
Yeah. Well, one quick thing that one of my observations I've seen from a broker that, let's say, sits in that 80 that the 80% of the industry, and then you see them, like, especially the brokers that sit in the top one or two.
Yep.
The brokers in the top one or two, there's no big, like, what do they do? They settle loans. What are the like a broker that settles $100 million a year in loans? They're settling loans. A broker that settles $10 million a year, they're settling loans. They're essentially doing the same job. What makes this broker that's doing $100 million so much different? There's not this big outlandish skill that they have that the other broker doesn't have. It's a combination of all these little one percenters that they've been able to just perfect over time, that's been able to project them into that elite status in our industry. So they're not significantly different. There's just an abundance of these little one percenters.
Which, to be fair, I would say the net result of which is that it does create difference, but it didn't start out that way. I think it's been developed over a period of time where they do think differently, they act differently, they behave differently, and they make decisions differently, which ultimately creates different results. But it wasn't necessarily like that to begin with. I think it's an accumulation of skills and knowledge and decisions and actions that have happened, as you said, over a period of time as well.
Yeah, I like the way you articulate it better than what I do. But yeah, the way you've articulated there is bang on.
So, gang, with that in mind, as always, we hope this has been useful for you and know that we're here to provide service, support, guidance, hopefully a little bit of inspiration and the opportunity for you to take some of these insights, apply them, and obviously get benefit and value out of them as always. If from a YouTube perspective, if you liked what we've done today, then by all means hit the like button or comment, and it's an opportunity for us to engage with you and support you and help you in your journey and where you're going and with the results you want to achieve. Until our next episode, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.